Okay, guys, we're right here with Danny Villarreal, the CEO of the RGV Sports Show and WrestleFest. Danny, welcome to Wrestevlogs, and it's great to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, no problem. All right, Danny. So, I've known you, but the people from the wrestling world don't know much about you. But would you like to introduce yourself about yourself and what you do here for the RGV wrestling scene and the Texas scene, pretty much?
Yeah, well, like you mentioned, my name is Danny Villarreal. The way I got introduced into the wrestling scene is at first I would do, sports memorabilia. I have a little company called D&D Memorabilia. Um, First show that I ever did was the RGV Sports Show. This is already going to be our third show. I started doing it in 2018, 2019. 2020, of course, took a break because of COVID. And this is our third show. But right before COVID hit, I did a show called South Texas Wrestlefest. And we hired TWL to do the live wrestling. I got introduced to, the whole independent wrestling circuit, and I kind of fell in love with it, and I wanted to kind of, contribute more to that. And then ever since then, I started working more with Cassie TWL, and that's how I kind of got involved more with the indie wrestling.
Yeah, we were there at the South Texas Wrestlefest, and it was a great event. We all had fun. It was a great time. It was a great experience. There was vendors, meet and greets. It's more like wrestling, so it was a good time. Are we expecting another South Texas Wrestlefest coming soon?
Yeah, after this RGV Sports Show, I am gonna focus my attention to bringing another South Texas WrestleFest. But for now, my attention is on this show. It's gonna be a pretty big show.
Okay, so like how you mentioned right now, the RGV Sports Show. Can you tell us a little background about the RGV Sports Show and how you started it?
Well, like I mentioned before, my first business was the D&D memorabilia. I started off, getting autographs on photos, helmets, footballs, mini helmets, that sort of stuff. And I went to a show in Houston called the TriStar Show, and they had a lot of vendors selling sports cards, selling sports memorabilia. They had special guests, athletes, Dallas Cowboy players, and I'm a big Dallas Cowboy fan. I know you don't like the Cowboys. We're always talking about that. But yeah, I mean, I was like, you know what, this would be awesome to do something like this in the Valley. So I kind of started, in all sports cards, sports memorabilia, and there's not at that time there wasn't that many sports cards, sports memorabilia vendors. So we kind of trickled in the whole collectible aspect to it, as a Funko Pops, toys, Pokemon. Now Pokemon cards is actually, pretty big. So there's a lot more sport card fans, a lot more Pokemon card fans, and there's not as much sports memorabilia like before. We kind of tend to be one of the only ones kind of doing that. But yeah, that's basically what the RGV Sports Show is, and I kind of trickled into wrestling as well from the very beginning. I think the very first wrestling guest that we had, I believe, was Tatanka. Yeah, it was Tatanka. We brought him to our first RGV Sports Show, and now wrestling has gotten a lot bigger too. So we kind of, now for this one, we're bringing Kurt Angle, Mark Henry, Melina. So it's kind of taking a little bit more part of the RGV Sports Show.
Okay, so how you mentioned there's sports memorabilia, special guests, and can you tell us a little bit more about the cards? I see you have a little collection here about the cards. I know nothing about cards, but
yeah, these are some cards that will be available from one of our sponsors, and one of our better, more high quality card vendors, STX cards. Shout out to STX cards. Like if you see this one, this is a Cristiano Ronaldo on card. This one is numbered 2 out of 10. This is actually, you want to guess how much this card is worth? It's worth around $20,000 to $25,000 for this one card.
Wow, for one card.
Yeah, so there's a big market for cards. Here's another one on card, 1 out of 5. It's another $20,000 to $25,000 card. And then there's going to be other cards, you know, basketball. Everybody knows Zion Williamson. So it's going to be stuff like this. There's going to be, you know, like I said, sports memorabilia, action figures, wrestling figures, Pokemon. There's going to be Funko Pops. Everybody likes Funko Pops. It's going to be stuff like that. And at the end of the show, we're going to have a live wrestling show as well.
Live wrestling show.
Mm-hmm.
Also, well, now that you're speaking about having a live wrestling show, fortunately, we had a champion. Ruben Steele was our former Wrestevlogs champion. Unfortunately, he had to drop the belt due to injury.
Oh.
And we were looking for a place to crown a brand new champion as soon as possible. So, I mean, I brought the Wrestevlogs championship with me. And as you know, this championship has been defended around Texas.
Yeah.
And trying to get it out there. So I wanted to ask, you wouldn't mind having a match for the Wrestlevogs Championship at the RGV Sports Show?
Oh, not at all, man. Let's make it happen.
We'll make it happen. Who do you think should deserve a chance for the Wrestlevogs Championship?
It's up to you. I mean, it's your belt, but we do have a card already in play. And I know Principe is a good friend of Wrestevlogs, so why not have Principe and Mooncat Franco wrestle for the Wrestevlogs Championship at the RGV Sports Show?
Hey, that sounds like a plan. I think I'll agree with that. So, as we said, we'll have an announcement about the Wrestevlogs Championship. So, to crown the brand new Wrestevlogs Championship, it will be Principe Celestial versus Mooncat Franco at the RGV Sports Show. When does the live wrestling start?
It starts right after the convention is over. The convention is over about 5 p.m. So I would say around 5:30 is when the live wrestling show should be starting.
Okay, so don't miss out. The RGV Sports Show, they're going to have live wrestling, as he said, memorabilia, sports cards, free arcade, right?
Yeah, we're going to have free arcades. There's going to be people dressed up as Pokemon characters, taking pictures, you know, with kids, with families, things like that. And again, we're going to have Darren Woodson, the ex-Cowboy safety, Kurt Angle, who's a pretty big name. I think he's probably the biggest name that I've ever brought down here. Mark Henry, Melina, and a couple of Power Rangers. And we also have a local boxer that we just signed that's going to come and be there as well.
It's a little bit of everything for everybody.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It'll be pretty fun, man. I encourage everybody to come out and you know, just give it a chance. It'll be a lot of fun.
Okay, so now that we're going for the, excuse me. Yeah, we were there at the last RGV Sports Show with Carlito. Gargo was there. There's a lot of things going on. It's a pretty cool concept that you have going around, and we had fun. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say about the last one, anybody who went to that one, the location was a little smaller. For this one, it's going to be a lot bigger. So anybody who went to the last one and kind of noticed it was a little crowded in there, it's going to be a lot more space in this one.
Okay. All right. So as you mentioned earlier, you're the CEO of WrestleFest. So can you tell us how you started WrestleFest? What got into you saying, okay, I'll have a wrestling convention with guests, vendors, and live wrestling?
Yeah, I'm always trying to, you know, think of something different, something new to do, you know, especially to bring down here to the valley, because I know there's not really much to do here sometimes. And I mean, I used to be a really, really big wrestling fan. Like, you know, I used to be kind of a mark. When I was in junior high, I was a big NWO, WCW fan. That's why the logo for the RGV Sports Show, yeah, it kind of mirrors the NWO logo. But yeah, and one day I just sat down and I said, you know what, like, what about like an all wrestling convention? We have vendors, we have special guests signing autographs, and we have a ring inside having matches all at the same time. And anybody who went to the South Texas Wrestlefest show the last time, they had a great time. Everybody basically looking forward for the next one.
Yeah, and we're looking forward for the next one. As we said, we mentioned we had a lot of fun. There's special guests, Sammy Guevara, Mark the Mark. We had a fun time. Yeah,
and one thing that I would like to say for this next one, I am willing to kind of bring in promotions from other places. I know you work a lot with other promotions. You go see a lot of other promotions. So this is kind of like my invitation to PPW, local wrestling, Gulf Coast wrestling. You know, you probably know names and more. But if anybody wants, you know, to showcase some of the wrestlers that are next South Texas Wrestlefest, you know, I'm more than glad to hear them out and you know, kind of come up with something to where, you know, everything gets showcased at a big show.
Yeah, that would be a great idea. So as Danny said, any promotions out there in Texas, out here in the state of Texas, Lucha Maniacs, Gulf Coast Wrestling Alliance, PPW, local wrestling, New Texas Pro, Dallas All Pro, VIP wrestling, anybody around the state is welcome to contact Danny, do some showcase matches, and show the talent, the great talent the state has.
Yeah, and one last thing that I would like to mention or announce. Speaking of South Texas WrestleFest, we have our own champion. Naval just beat ASF for the championship. I wanted to announce that Naval is going to be defending the championship at RGV Sports Show against Richard Reason.
There you go, Wrestevlogs exclusive here with CEO of South Texas WrestleFest and the RGV Sports Show. Danny, anything else you want to add before we close it off?
Nah, I just would like everybody to come out to the RGV Sports Show July 10th and 11th. It's going to be at the Mission Parks and Recreation Building. I know we've had a couple of TWO shows there, so people who've already been there should know where it's at. Again, it's going to be a lot of vendors, special guests, Kurt Angle, Mark Henry, Melina, Darren Woodson, Power Rangers. We're going to have free arcades, free raffles, Pokemon characters, and a free live wrestling show at the end of the show. So come check it out. It's going to be fun all day for you and the rest of your family.
Awesome. All right, so is there any pages the fans can follow, whether it be the RGV Sports Show or South Texas WrestleFest?
Yeah, I have quite a few. I'm both Facebook and Instagram. It's at RGV Sports Show in both Facebook, Instagram, and for South Texas WrestleFest as well. Both Facebook and Instagram is at I think it's STX WrestleFest.
We'll put it on the graphic.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people tend to forget her.
Yeah. So I have so many pages I tend to forget sometimes. Yeah.
Well, all right, Danny. Thank you so much for having you here right here at Wrestevlogs, and for the people in the wrestling community know, as I can mention, you want to have a showcase for the South Texas WrestleFest, and that's the message you want to deliver out there.
Yeah.
All right, Danny. Thank you so much, and we hope to see you soon at the RGV Sports Show and at South Texas WrestleFest or TWO.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.